Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. A long-awaited program for additional state assistance for Pajaro residents is finally getting underway, and an assistance center to help provide more financial support for residents is opening next week. We're going to talk about what help is available for both residents and businesses. We're going to start with our colleague Mindy Esqueda from Department of Emergency Management, who is going to provide information about what residents assistance is there for residents, and she is going to give her information in both English and Spanish, and those who have questions about financial support for residents can ask questions and ask for it to be responded to in English or Spanish. Hi, Mindy. Thanks for getting us started.
Hey, Maya, thank you. Appreciate you having us on today. Yeah, we are very excited to be rolling out the financial assistance program for the residents of Pajaro who were affected by the flooding last year in March of 2023. And we are basically, this is a unmet needs disaster assistance program, which refers to the difference between any type of assistance that someone may have received during a disaster, what was not funded, what they did not receive, and there's still that need there. So this particular program is going to address those needs. And so we've got kind of two different phases of it. There's going to be a first phase where you can apply, and then as long as you were evacuated and living in Pajaro at that time, there's a first phase of assistance that you can receive. And then going beyond that, if there were actual damages done to your property, your home, you need more housing assistance, then that application would pass on to phase 2. And we have case managers who are going to be working with each family case by case throughout the entire process. So it's just one application that will be submitted, and it will be reviewed. And then we are working with our collaborating agencies, Catholic Charities and Community Bridges, and they will be doing the case management piece of that. So they'll be working with the families on getting them the assistance that they definitely need. And so with that, we just finished doing a round of info sessions that we offered to the Pajaro community in collaboration with our partners and Monterey County Workforce as well, who's handling the business, and they'll speak to that. So we conducted 4 different informational sessions at the Ascension Church, 2 last week and 2 the previous week, and really just provided the residents the full scope of what this program entails, the details, what they need to do. And what we let everyone know, is basically in the meantime, until we open up our application center, which I'll explain in a moment, for them to be going through, and making a list of any items. We recommend any of the residents who are affected to do this. Just make a list of any of the items that were damaged, that you lost, that were, during a cause of the March floods, and then start looking for the receipts and documentation, because there will be an a verification requirement to this, just to make sure that the residents of Pajaro who were affected will be the ones receiving this assistance. So we finished that, and then now we're going to be opening up the assistance center, the application center, and that's going to be at the Pajaro Park at 24 San Juan Road, and we're going to open that up March 27th, and we will be there until April 27th. And then the hours at that application center are going to be Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Thursdays and Fridays from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it will be closed Sundays and Mondays. So we encourage all residents who were affected by the floods to go to the application center. We will be hands-on working with each family in processing the application.
Thank you very much, Mindy. Are you able to give that information again in Spanish for our Spanish media?
Buenas tardes a todos. Nos da mucho gusto presentar la programa de asistencia para los residentes de Pajaro que fueron afectados por las inundaciones del año pasado en marzo de 2023. Este programa es creado para asistir con las necesidades que no fueran cubiertas. Quiere decir que, por ejemplo, las familias o residentes que fueron afectados a lo mejor tenían ciertos gastos o ciertos daños, a lo mejor recibieron alguna asistencia o a lo mejor unos no recibieron y queda esa necesidad, queda ese gasto que no fue cubierto. Ese programa está diseñado para ayudar en esa asistencia para lo que no fue cubierto. La programa se va a tratar en dos fases. La primera fase es abierto para quien sea que fue afectado y afectado por las inundaciones, específicamente en marzo. En una sola aplicación, pueden someter su aplicación y si califican para la asistencia que fueron evacuados, van a recibir un poco de asistencia luego. Y luego si también, además, si sufrieron daños de propiedad personal o su vivienda, necesitan asistencia de vivienda, van a pasar a la fase 2 y vamos a tener manejadores de caso por las agencias de Community Bridges, antes de la comunidad, y también Catholic Charities o Caridades Católicas. Ellos van a estar trabajando con las familias, cada uno van a asignar un trabajador que va a trabajar con las familias para procesar toda la información y ayudarles a recibir la asistencia que necesitan. Entonces, con una sola aplicación pueden aplicar para las diferentes fases. Acabamos de presentar esa información en unas sesiones informativas en Pájaro, en la Iglesia Asunción. Tuvimos 4 sesiones informativas, reuniones, y fueron asistidos por mucha gente. Nos dio mucho gusto hablar con los residentes, explicar el programa. Y ahora lo que sigue es que vamos a punto de abrir nuestro sitio de centro de aplicaciones. Se va a hacer en el Parque de Pájaro, en el 24 San Juan Road. Se va a abrir el 27 de marzo. Vamos a estar ahí hasta el 27 de abril. Y el horario que vamos a estar ahí recibiendo las aplicaciones es martes y miércoles de 10 a.m. hasta 7 p.m. Los jueves y viernes de 2 en la tarde hasta 7 en la noche. Los sábados vamos a estar ahí de 10 en la mañana hasta 2 en la tarde y va a estar cerrado domingo y lunes. Así es que surgimos a todos los residentes de Pájaro que fueron afectados a que vayan a aplicar. Ahí vamos a estar tomando uno por uno las aplicaciones. Por mientras, les recomendamos que vayan haciendo su lista de cualquier cosa que perdieron, fueron dañado y empiecen a buscar sus recibos o facturas, estados de cuenta, porque sí se va a tener que proveer documentación para asegurar que la gente de Pájaro son las personas que van a recibir esa asistencia.
Thank you very much, Mindy. So we'll go ahead and get started with questions. We do have one question in the chat, and the request is that you give the answer in both English and Spanish. Up to how much money can each resident get? Is there a limit to the assistance that residents can get? And this, you could talk a little bit about the phases a little bit more as well.
Definitely. So in phase 1, it is a food gift card that's going to be distributed to the families that were evacuated. So that is like the first phase. And there's a range on that depending on the members of the family. It can be anywhere from like 200 to 600. That's what it's set at right now. And so that's the first phase. The second phase, that's going to really depend on the type of damages that someone suffered or they have received. So that's kind of more on a case-by-case basis. There is a cap, but the case managers are going to be working with each family to determine, the needs and how we can best support them. In Spanish. Entonces, el programa la asistencia se va a dar en 2 fases. La primera fase es una tarjeta de comida que se les va a dar. Y esas todas las personas que fueron evacuados, que vivieron en Pájaro el 10 de marzo. Esta tarjeta de comida va a tener un valor dependiendo de los miembros de la familia. Puede ser de $200 hasta $600. Ya de ahí se va a pasar si sufrieron daños de la vivienda o de propiedad personal. El manejador de casos va a trabajar con las familias. Sí, existe un límite, pero van a trabajar caso por caso con las familias para determinar la ayuda que se puede ofrecer.
Thank you. And then another question for you. People may be thinking that they won't qualify for something. A lot of residents in Pajaro have had a wide variety of experience with FEMA and other agencies, and they just may think that they're not going to qualify. What would you say to residents to encourage them to come and find out? Because there's no harm in coming to find out. And they, for instance, the food gift card, if people evacuated during the flooding, they very well may be eligible even for the replacement for food.
Exactly. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so that's the message that we were definitely delivering at the informational sessions as well. We completely understand that there's going to be a lot of people who are not able or maybe don't have the backup documentation for verification. And what we're trying to, definitely reiterate is the purpose for that, again, is to avoid anyone who is not a Pajaro resident or was not affected to receive the assistance. So that being said, yes, the program has guidelines in terms of verification, but we're very flexible with that, and the case managers will be working with the families to basically work them through the process. We heard from many different families, and you're right, there's so many different cases. Everyone has a different type of experience and trauma, and so understanding that we're encouraging everyone to apply. So what we were saying to them is, tell us what it is that, paint us the picture for what you lost, what your damages were, and then because if we don't know, we can't help you. So just present anything and any and all information, and then the case manager will work with each family on a case-by-case basis.
And could you share that information in Spanish also? I think that's really useful.
El mensaje que estábamos diciendo a la gente que estaba en asistencia en las sesiones informativas es eso de que le urgemos a todos a que vayan a aplicar para la ayuda. Entendemos que el proceso anteriormente con FEMA fue un poco frustrante, entendemos eso. Este programa, la razón por los requisitos de verificación es simplemente evitar que personas que no vivieran en Pájaro, que no fueran afectados, reciben esta ayuda. Y por eso el programa tiene sus verificaciones. Pero entendemos perfectamente que hay mucha gente que a lo mejor perdieron sus documentos o no los tiene. Entonces, lo que vamos a estar trabajando es hacer flexible y trabajar con las familias caso por caso. Escuchamos de muchas familias que sufrieron de diferentes maneras, están en totalmente situaciones diferentes, pero le urgemos a todos a que vayan a aplicar para nosotros poder ayudarlos.
Thank you very much, Mindy. Any other questions for Mindy on the support for residents before we move on to the business topic? I'm not seeing any hands raised, and I see no additional questions in chat. Mindy, thank you very much for sharing this information. So Mindy talked about the support for residents. There is also a program to help businesses in Pajaro with their recovery. That program is being managed by our Workforce Development Board, and Vanessa is going to walk us through what businesses will need to bring to the table to help them with their support. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Maya. Thank you for having me. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. Again, thank you for having me. What I'm going to go over is the business version of the program for Pajaro residents. And this is the same slide deck that we covered during the informational session that we did with Mindy's team and also their partner agencies. And so I'll touch on each slide briefly to be mindful of time, but what I'll do after is leave my email address. So if you would like a copy of the slide deck, we also have a version in Spanish as well. I can go ahead and send that over today. Okay, so for businesses, we have a total of $3.7 million available to aid in the damages, reimbursements of equipment and such things that were a result of the flood. It's split up into 2 phases, although the application period is going to be within the same timeline. The first set is for reimbursements covered in phase 1. That's where we have the majority of the funding being allocated. And this is going to be a reimbursement process. So businesses that are applying, we are asking that they assist us with submitting proofs of payment for eligible expenses to be able to have that as a supporting document. Storefront businesses are eligible to apply for up to $85,000, while home-based businesses can apply for up to $5,000. What we've done is identify the categories of the expenses in the bullet points on the slide. And so it covers items such as inventory, equipment, loss of revenue, damages to the building, computers, tablets, printers, and we'll touch on that in more detail in the next slide. For phase 2, for beautification, this is intended to assist businesses with needing work done to their building to improve the aesthetic appearance as a result of the flood. And this process is going to be a little bit different. In phase 1, that is reimbursement based. However, for phase 2, we understand that due to limited funds or timing, a lot of the work that may have been needed to be done to the building is most likely not yet completed. And so for this particular process, we are requiring that business owners collect quotes from licensed contractors and submit that with their application. We want to make sure that just for liability reasons that the work is being done by someone who is licensed to do so. The only additional item here is that if the business owner does not own the building that they're currently operating in, we do require written approval from the landlord, and that is just to make sure that we're able to go through, process that funding, and authorize the work to take place seamlessly. The next 2 slides provide a little bit more of a description of the eligible expenses. We want to be as transparent as possible with not only what the requirements are, but also what's eligible. So covering each one, we have inventory, equipment, revenue. We have the timeline here. All the other expenses can be from March 10th, 2023 until December 31st, 2023. However, loss of revenue is the only one that's limited to just that 2-week window from March 10th and March 31st. So we do encourage that if businesses have expenses that are of higher amounts in the other categories, to go ahead and submit that. And although there is the maximum amount for both storefront and home businesses, we do encourage businesses, if they have receipts in excess of the maximum amount, go ahead and also turn that in. You know, in the event that some of the expenses turn out to not be eligible, it would eliminate the bottleneck of having to go back and collect that information or requiring them to come back again, just to help expedite the process. Again, this one is touching on the beautification process. You know, for this one, we are requiring quotes. This goes into a little bit more detail of what that process would look like. So for reimbursement checks, those are the checks we would like to get out as soon as possible once an application has been approved. For beautification, once we do receive that quote, the application, we would like to issue 50% upfront after an on-site inspection has been completed. And then the applicant has up until September 30th to have that work completed. We do want to be mindful that there could be some delay in not only getting it contracted, but having the work done with supplies and things like that. And so once the work has been completed, we will issue the remaining amount, which may differ from what the original quoted amount was, but it's up to that 15,000 maximum. So if a business owner submits a quote and it's, let's say 13,000, we issue 50% of that upfront. And then if the final invoice ends up being a little bit more, we'll go ahead and also pay for that difference as long as it's within the $15,000 amount. This is the eligibility criteria for the program. It's very similar to the program for residents. So the business is required to be owned, operated, and located in Pajaro, either on one of the streets that were flooded or evacuated. And just as Mindy mentioned, the intent behind this is to help make sure that the funds are truly going to the residents and members of the community that we're trying to help, versus maybe having a business owner who perhaps may be located out of the county or out of state. We do require that the business had to have been established and in operation prior to the date of the flood. The business owner themselves also needs to be a resident of Monterey County or within a 20-mile radius as of the date of the flood. So there is certain documentation that we are requesting to be able to verify that. And then similar to the residence program, you know, wanted to make sure that the business was truly impacted, which is going to be the case with the majority, if not all of our applicants. And as well with being able to issue the funds, we want to make sure that we avoid any type of duplication of benefits that Mindy had touched on. And this does not mean that if they received assistance from other programs last year, that it would prohibit them from applying. We just want to make sure that they're not essentially submitting the exact same claims for the exact same expenses, to be able to broaden where we can assist. To recap, even though we have 2 phases, it's all on one application timeline. Home-based businesses are limited to just submitting the one application for inventory, computer, laptop, tablets, printer, copier, fax machine replacement for that $5,000, because they would also be eligible to apply for the resident program as long as they also meet the eligibility criteria for that. Where it might get a little tricky is for storefront businesses. So storefront businesses can either submit an application just for reimbursement of losses, just an application for beautification, or they could submit one application for both. Either way, it's going to be one single application, and there may just be some questions that they can skip, you know, depending on what phase they would like to request funding for. On the same line of you being transparent, we do provide additional descriptions of the required documentation that we are going to be collecting, either as a requirement of the program, from the county of being able to process and issue payment, or just being able to verify some of the criteria. And I do want to mention that we understand that there may be a lot of instances where applicants aren't able to provide the exact document that we're looking for, but we still encourage applicants to apply, and then we want to work with each individual one-on-one to be able to identify what alternative documents could be submitted that would still allow them to meet the criteria without it being, you know, one of the ones that we've listed. So we do require a copy of a government issued photo ID. This is just to help be able to verify the other documents that are being submitted. Proof of residency requirement. Some of the examples we've listed include a utility bill, lease agreement, credit card statement, but there could also be other documents that can be submitted that would still meet that need. Typically, in the past, when we've worked with businesses, we would collect a copy of the business license. Since Pajaro is located in an unincorporated area where business licenses are not required, we've listed a copy of the Schedule C from the 2022 tax return. For now, there could be other documents, and we did receive some feedback from business owners during the informational session. So during the appointments, we'll be able to work with them to identify what alternative documents could be submitted. The bottom 3 forms, the W-9, 590, and the vendor data form, this is really for us to be able to process the payment if the application is approved. So those are forms that we have available and we'll also have on our website. This goes a little bit more into the documents for the phases. So for phase 1, to support the receipts or proof of payment that we're collecting, there is a form that needs to go with that, and that really just itemizes the expenses and totals it to match the application. And then there's a similar version for beautification requests. So again, a document to itemize the work that is requesting to be done along with the quotes that are being attached. And just like I mentioned, we want to be as flexible as possible. So just because a business owner might not have the exact documents doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't be eligible to apply. This is a chart we put together to help simplify the requirements. I know it can be a lot of information to process and it could be really overwhelming. Depending on the type of funding that a business owner is applying for, this lists the types of documents that we are requiring. So unless a business owner is applying for both phase 1 and 2, you know, they might not have to submit the beautification form and or the invoice reimbursement form. If they are applying for both, they would essentially have to submit everything that's listed there. And this is our timeline that we've shared with everyone. Our website right now is currently being worked on to update and add all of the information, but it will go live this coming Monday. We are now starting to accept calls for appointments from business owners, and the phone numbers I'll go over on the next slide. Tuesday is when business owners will be able to start submitting their applications. We are requiring that all applications are submitted online, and they can either do that themselves or come to the application center to be able to receive assistance from our team members to help them scan that in. 27th is when the application center opens. They'll be open until April 27th for a full month, and that's when we'll close the center and then finalize our review of the remaining applications. We listed the June 30th date as the final date to issue checks. Not that we're anticipating that a lot of the checks would take that long to be distributed, but this is really to take into account that if we do have an applicant that waits until the 27th to apply, and if there happen to be any issues with their documents or we need additional follow-up, it's giving us that time. And then again, they have until September 30th to have their beautification work completed. That is approved. Again, might not take that long, but we're giving them that time if they need it. And then how they would apply, they would either apply themselves online or they could schedule an appointment to come to the application center. We do have phone numbers set up, one for English, one for Spanish, for applicants to be able to call in and schedule an appointment. What you see in the table are the dates and the times. We do encourage that business owners call to schedule that appointment to make sure that they have the time that they need to have that one-on-one assistance. During the walk-ins, we don't know how many business owners may show up, and we don't want to have to turn anyone away because there isn't enough time. So we do encourage that if there is availability during the appointment times to go ahead and call and schedule with us. So that's our slide deck.
Oh, thank you, Vanessa. Thanks so much. That was a
You're
really
welcome.
thorough walkthrough for businesses. You know, you were at the informational sessions and
Yes.
sharing a lot of information. What kind of response did you get from businesses? You know, are they interested? Did businesses speak to you about what their needs might be and how they can take advantage of this?
We did have some businesses attend, but that was very minor to the quantity of the residents that came to the informational session, and that was where most of the questions were. So some of the questions we received from businesses were just getting clarification on the documentation. You know, there were instances where maybe they lost receipts, you know, how would they go about still proving that they purchased something and things like that. But we also did communicate to the attendees that, you know, this is kind of a trial. The funding was allocated to each of the programs to get it up and running. And then depending on how that goes, or if we find that the allocation for businesses is not spent entirely, then that's where Department of Emergency Management will go back to the Board of Supervisors and request a reallocation and maybe transfer what's not spent over to the resident side. We just want to make sure that the money is going to those who truly need it. And if there isn't as high of a need on the business end as what we thought, you know, there will be opportunities for additional funding on the other end.
And the important difference between the resident support and the business support is the online aspect of this, where residents are going to be working with case managers, but you'll have people at the assistance center, but you're going to do most of this application process online, and you'll be assisting these business owners to make the applications online, correct?
Correct. They'll be able to either apply completely online or schedule an appointment if perhaps, you know, they don't have the technical means to be able to submit it, or they just need additional assistance or clarification on some of the documents prior to submitting. But we wanted to make sure that from our experiences working with businesses, a lot of them may prefer to apply completely online. So being available both in person and online would give them more flexibility to be able to do that.
Thank you. Any last questions for Vanessa or Mindy while we're on this topic of the assistance program? I'm not seeing any questions in chat, and I'm not seeing any hand raised. Thank you, Vanessa and Mindy, for sharing this information, and we're really looking forward to a great turnout at these centers next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All on to our next topic now. The county and its homeless services partners have been very fortunate to have received state homeless housing assistance grant funds in the past, and those funds have supported some very successful programs. The first step is now underway to apply for additional funding and grant monies to continue the work. So we're very pleased to have Lauren Suwansupa from our Department of Social Services and Roxanne Wilson, our Homeless Services Director, here to talk about this application process. Good afternoon, ladies.
Thank you, May. I appreciate the opportunity to share about the program. I'm just gonna share my screen so you can follow along with a quick overview. Okay, there we go. You're seeing everything okay?
Yes.
Okay, so just really briefly, this is the 5th time we've been through this now. The HHAP round 5 is part of a $1 billion block grant authorized by AB 129 and overseen by the California Interagency Council on Homelessness, really to help support the local jurisdictions provide a regional response to end and reduce homelessness. The changes over the last few rounds have been pretty minor. For 5, they really kind of just lump things into 3 simple buckets to understand, you know, what really the purpose for this funding should be aimed at. That's costs that support permanent housing, costs that support interim housing, and costs that support our service network and provide the support to the system that we need in order to provide these types of services. For this round, I just provided a quick snapshot in comparison to what we received in round 4. Monterey County is pretty much exactly what we got from round 4. Regionally, we're lumped together with the County of San Benito because they're also part of our COC, or Continuum of Care. So you can see for the overall region of Monterey and San Benito, including our COC, administrator, which is the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, we're receiving over $6 million to help support this types of services. The application process is intensive. There's a lot of components that are really necessary in order to ensure that our community receives this money. The first piece is it is a collaborative application. So as I mentioned, you know, the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers and the County of San Benito, because we are all included in one COC area, we have to apply together. And so we've been working very closely with our partners to be able to complete a collaborative application. That includes organizing what they call a regional action plan. So the state's given us some baseline data and have really asked us to make very deliberate and clear plans on how we will address these things, how we will make improvements in the way we provide services or to the various demographics being impacted by homelessness. Finally, there's a component requiring a signed MOU. So not only have we discussed this, have we come up with a plan, we are formally committing to it. And so that's what was brought to the forward to the Board of Supervisors yesterday. The governing bodies of our other partners, both San Benito County and the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, are all also getting their authorization to sign this plan. So it's a very formalized process in order to establish the application, the plan, and the commitment. I want to turn over to Roxanne to share a little bit more about some of the work that we've done in order to support the development of all of this work. A big piece of this was requirements part of AB 129, and Roxanne can share a little bit about what we did with community engagement.
Thank you, Lauren. So as mentioned, AB 129, which was just passed last year, made some fairly substantial changes in how we were to determine what our plan or our funding plan was going to be. One of the biggest things that the state is now requiring is that we did a expansive community engagement process. So as you can see on your screen, there was a list of different populations or representatives that the state asked us to query to get input on our plan. So I'm happy to announce that the County of Monterey partnered again with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers and San Benito County on a highly successful community engagement process that we substantiated in survey results. While the San Benito County did their own community engagement meetings, I do want to just highlight what we did in partnership with the coalition on our side. The community engagement process launched at the second annual Lead Me Home Summit on Homelessness, where more than 250 individuals were invited to participate in active conversations about eligible uses, the pros and cons of each homeless intervention, and how the partners have historically used HHAP funding. We hosted meetings in the cities of Monterey and Soledad, along with collected survey results on multiple county and Coalition of Homeless Services Providers social media platforms. Additionally, we physically visited emergency shelters and housing navigation centers and spoke directly to program participants to receive their feedback. In total, we collected feedback from 418 individuals in both English and Spanish. Survey respondents generally prefer to focus on permanent housing options, including rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. However, they also supported interim sheltering to give people a place to stay now, as permanent housing supply can often take longer to develop. Of the people who were engaged, we had 76 people with lived experience, 52 persons who represented populations disproportionately represented in homelessness. 181 leaders from staff from local jurisdictions, 21 representatives from the Medi-Cal Managed Plan, which is administered by Central California Alliance on Health, 97 community advocates, and 171 concerned citizens. So please note that respondents were allowed to identify themselves in more than one category, and not all categories were represented in the report that I had just given. As always, we are deeply grateful for the community showing up and providing their input on this very important activity. We hear you. We are doing everything we can to build and sustain an effective homelessness response system. And it's because of input sessions like this, we're able to really know if we are on target for what the community feels we need to do with this funding. So thank you.
So I was just going to provide a little bit more detail on where the funding is going. Oh, too far. Really the needs in our homeless service providers far exceed the amount that we are being allocated. So this funding is really being focused in on maintaining our the existing investments and focusing in on programs that will provide pathways to stable housing and prioritizing permanent housing. This really goes a lot towards the continuing operations for the Share Center, which is our full service navigation center located in Salinas. It also supports up to 2 years of safe parking, a year of our homeless outreach program. There's a youth set aside, so there is a commitment towards a permanent housing program for transitional age youth, as well as meager support to administration, both for the COC and for the county to administer the funds, and HMIS, which is the homeless services information, kind of the database that's used in order to help collect records for capturing homelessness. Again, if you have any questions, the Department of Social Services is the administrating entity on behalf of the County of Monterey, and we're happy to engage or answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Roxanne and Lauren, for walking through that. It's a little bit of a complicated process. It's not easy, but I think I'd like you to talk a little bit about the importance of this money, because without this money, there are a lot of good things that we might not be able to do. And you're putting a lot of time and effort. We've got, two government entities and one partner all working together, kind of full steam on this application, just showing you the value and the importance of these grant funds.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Maya. I think starting back under HEAP funding that came about 2019, 2018, 2019, that was the first real heavy infusion of funding that we needed to help, start some brand new programs, particularly Casa de Noche Buena, the shelter in Seaside, as well as the Share Center, the Navigation Center in Salinas. Without HHAP, the operations of those programs and that investment that HEAP provided, these programs really didn't have any other way to sustain or support the operations. This funding has really become critical to just maintaining those investments made by the community.
If I may just add, man, there's something that is a little concerning, and that is that the governor did not include a 6th round of HHAP in the January proposed budget. So there's a lot of advocacy coming from the counties, the continuums of care, the cities, all of the associations that's affiliated with these entities, for HHAP to be added back into the May revise. So we are certainly paying attention to what is happening on the state level, bracing ourselves for what will happen if it does not make it back in, and working with other entities in the background on securing additional funding that can fill gaps just in case HHAP is no longer made available to us. But we've been working really hard, and because of this funding, we have built really strong relationships with the managed care plan, with the coalition. I really think that the state was on target with asking us to work together and make collaborative applications, and for us to really investigate on where our funding is going, not just HHAP, but all of the funding that's coming into our community collectively with the city of Salinas and all the other partners that are not required by the MOU. But it helped us dig deep, roll up our sleeves, and establish those bridges, those much needed bridges, for us to provide better services to the community.
Lauren, did you go over the application timeline? Because you're getting all these approvals to make the application. When does it go in, and then when do you hear?
The application is due next Wednesday. So we are right at the final push to get that completed. And I believe we should be expecting to hear back with contracts within probably about 2 months.
Any other questions for Roxanne or Lauren before we let them go on this subject? Seeing none, I'm not seeing any hand raised. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much for bringing us up to date on this. And we're really, if we can keep all of our fingers crossed, we will cross everything and hope for the best.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
On to our next topic now. This coming weekend, there will be a major Highway 1 closure and detour that will affect people who are traveling to and from Santa Cruz County, and it's something Monterey County residents should very much be aware of. We're very pleased to have Kevin Drabinski from Caltrans with us to talk about this closure, which is going to be a little disruptive, would you say?
Well, happy spring to everybody. Happy start of the baseball season. We got word this morning that the previously announced closure of Highway 1 in Capitola for this coming up weekend had to be canceled and will be rescheduled due to weather. It will not in any event happen the following weekend. It won't happen next weekend. We're looking for a likely closure on April 6th and 7th. However, 2 points I'd like to make about that. One is that we made this decision to postpone this work out of a safety concern because there was a forecast for wet weather. And I think it's so important to remind us ourselves that even though we have these big projects, even though everything is ready to go, the rocket launch is ready to go, the baseball game, the crowd is there, the vendors are there, we're ready to open up. When it comes down to it, safety is the overriding principle on which we have to make our decisions. And it just wasn't going to be as safe. We're demolishing the Capitola Avenue overcrossing. There's real strong forces being applied there. And we want our crews to be as safe as possible. And we have detours in place, but people driving in the rain on streets that may not be familiar with them, we want to avoid that possibility. So it looks like it might be rescheduled for the 6th and 7th. Even though it's not happening this very weekend, I want the community to consider when it gets updated, when we provide the update and we have the new date, how that might affect their travel plans. My feeling is that if the community understands that this closure is in place and to avoid travel through it from Saturday at 7 p.m. to Sunday at 7 p.m., once the community understands that closure is happening, they can make decisions for themselves. They can choose to if they're in Monterey, to not, ramble up to the Santa Cruz Sunday market. We also want to extend this message regionally so that people from King City on down who may be venturing up to Santa Cruz know that closure is in place. We want everyone in Half Moon Bay who would like to come down during that closure time to visit Monterey to understand it would be a better bet to hop over on the US 101. People in the San Jose area understand that if their destination is Monterey that weekend, or points south of Capitola on Highway 1, to take the 101 and to cut over south of Capitola. So we're happy with the decision that we were able to base it on safety, which is the overarching principle on which we have to base these decisions. And we've got about 2 weeks to spread the word about the date for the new closure and for people to consider how they can move their plans, adjust their plans, how businesses that run 24 hours can make sure that their crews are advised, for all the institutions that we rely on that operate around the clock to understand the impact that this closure might have. And thank you to County of Monterey for being such good partners in getting that messaging out on your channels.
Thank you, Kevin. So could you confirm the date again that you're considering the postponement with the weekend you're looking at?
It was originally scheduled for this weekend, the 23rd and the 24th. So Saturday, 7 p.m. into Sunday. It looks like it will not happen next weekend. And the tentative dates that we're looking at are Saturday, April 6th and Sunday, April 7th. So at Saturday, April 6th at 7 p.m., a full 24-hour closure until Sunday at 7 p.m. And we advise people to, share that message when we put it out later this week, when we confirm that date. Share it with friends, share it with institutions, so this community reduces the number of people for whom that can be surprised by this closure.
Well, it's also another good reason to check in with quick maps, et cetera, and always kind of be aware of the potential for road work, because road work is happening everywhere. It happens on Caltrans roads, it happens on county roads and city roads. And just being aware before you go is a really good idea.
Thanks for that plug for Quick Map. All those construction jobs, including this closure, are plugged into that system. We were also able to alert Apple Maps and the Waze Google people of this closure. We canceled that notice, but hopefully it'll register on all the platforms that people use to negotiate their directions on the state highway system.
Well, Kevin, I'm really pleased you could jump in and share it on the briefing today, and we'll do some post briefing outreach for our media partners to help them, share it far and wide. And we look forward to hearing about the upcoming date and giving people plenty of time for a workaround. Appreciate it.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you.
Thanks. And then last, but of course, absolutely not least, we're very glad that Lindsay Brown from the Marine Sanctuary has waded through all of these very interesting issues to talk about a really fun event that's coming up in May. It's called Snapshot Day. And if you've ever wondered what is in the water that flows into the Monterey Bay, this is an opportunity for you to find out why and what's in the water. And Lindsay's going to tell us all about it. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, thank you for that introduction. Yes, my name is Lindsay Brown, and I'm the Water Quality Program Coordinator with the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation on detail with the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And I'm here to talk about one of our volunteer water quality monitoring programs called Snapshot Day. First, I wanted to quickly touch on a bit of background on what a national marine sanctuary is and why it's important for us to protect these valuable marine areas. A national marine sanctuary is a special zone in U.S. waters that's protected by the government to conserve and preserve its unique marine life, history, culture, and natural beauty. These sanctuaries serve various purposes like recreation, research, and education, but their main goal is to keep the marine environment healthy by safeguarding its ecosystems and wildlife. But today I want to focus on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which borders Monterey County. This sanctuary was designated in 1992 and stretches a little bit north of San Francisco in Marin, all the way down south to Cambria, which is around 276 miles of coastline. And this extends on average of 30 miles from shore. So with such varying ecosystems such as rocky shores, sandy bottoms, and deep ocean canyons, the sanctuary is one of the nation's largest natural marine sanctuaries that harbors incredible amounts of biodiversity. The activities we engage in on land and on the coast can directly affect the watersheds depicted on the map, ultimately impacting the diverse marine life and ecosystems within the sanctuary. These organisms, some of which are pictured here, are not only crucial to the environment, but also to our own well-being. Therefore, the monitoring of water quality holds significant importance. It provides essential data for regulators and partners to analyze changes in water quality and implement necessary improvements to both safeguard marine life and human health. So this is why I want to talk with you all about Snapshot Day. Snapshot Day is our annual water quality monitoring program that takes place once a year on the first Saturday of May. This large community science event provides a snapshot of the health and quality of the streams in 4 counties and many different watersheds that eventually flow into the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We do this through the collection of water samples and the measurement of various field parameters. Thousands of volunteers have participated over the years since its start in 2000, and over 250 stream sites have been monitored up and down the coast and inland of the sanctuary. This event is also used to engage and inspire stewardship among volunteers to take charge and understand water quality issues in their community, and to collect long-term data sets to see what stream sites are improving or declining in water quality over the years. It would not be possible to collect all this data without the help of all of our volunteers over the years. The data generated by our volunteers is a valuable resource for identifying long-term trends, but to really engage volunteers and help them learn about water quality in the sanctuary, we must get the word out about this event to recruit more volunteers each year. So this is really what the day of on Snapshot Day looks like. It's volunteers getting together, they're meeting new people, they're enjoying each other's company, collecting valuable water quality samples, and just having fun outside. 86 sites were monitored for last year's event with the help from 95 volunteers across 4 different counties, which are depicted on the map here. Volunteers are split up into groups of 3 to 5 people and are assigned 3 to 5 stream sites to monitor the morning of. This year's Snapshot Day is on May 4th from 8:30 to 12:30. Attending one training session is required to participate. There are 5 different options available. 4 in person, there's one at the First Santa Cruz County at the Sanctuary Exploration Center, 1 in San Mateo County at the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, 1 in the SLO County area at the Coastal Discovery Center, and 1 in Monterey County at the REI in Marina. There's also 1 virtual training option over Zoom. There is no previous experience necessary to participate in this event, and all are welcome. It's a great one-day, low-commitment family activity, and it offers an opportunity for individuals and families to engage in meaningful community science while making a positive impact on local water quality. So this QR code here will take you to the registration form, And this is our link, tinyurl.com/snapshotday2024 to be able to register. And this is our flyer. So let me know if you have any questions. I really appreciate getting the chance to speak with you all today.
Lindsay, thanks very much for walking through this. I've lived in the area for many years and had not heard of Snapshot Day. So I'm sure there are people like me who love the sanctuary and love the idea of a healthy watershed and, things that flow into the bay, but just may not be aware of this activity. You talked about no experience necessary, but there seem to be some trainings that people who want to participate really should take advantage of.
Exactly. Yes, we require each volunteer to participate in one training session. And I do provide a recording of the virtual training session as well if they want to refresh on any information they might have missed when they were in person or over Zoom. There is no scientific requirement. You don't need to have any previous experience, and that's why there's a training session for it.
And you show families kind of getting out and taking advantage of this activity. Is there an age limit where people should be maybe like older teenagers who can go out on their own, or how do you handle that?
Right. So 16-year-olds and up to 18 can participate with their parent filling out a flyer for them. They need to fill out a form, or their guardian needs to fill out a form for them. If you're over 18, then by any means you can join. But it's nice to be able to have a license to be able to get to your stream site if you're not coming with your family.
Sounds great. Thank you. And we'll be sharing this information with all of our county employees, and we hope people who are on the call here will share it with all their staff and just get a lot of people out there and, get that snapshot. We love the sanctuary.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week, and we'll see you then.